I'm going to show you guys how to wrap a hand for professional fighting or amateur fighting. I made a pad off screen. I just took some gauze and I wrapped the gauze around the width of my knuckles a couple of times, and I did like 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I did it all the way to my fingertips, and then I did it back to make a pad. All right, so it ended up looking like this because this pad is going to protect and cushion the your fighter's knuckles. Okay, but anyway, I got the gauze, and a lot of people start different ways. Sometimes when I'm feeling froggy, I'll start here across the top of the knuckles. Sometimes I'll start around the thumb. Sometimes I start around the wrist. You guys can figure out what works best for you, but what I do more often than not, I ask my fighter to spread their fingers wide so I can catch, right? And then I'll start here. So I go across the top of the knuckle and under the palm, right? And once I do that, I can ask my fighter to ball up their fist. And after they ball up their fist, I'll take the gauze and I'll wrap it around their wrist 4 times. And like if they need greater support with their wrists, you can go down 2 lengths, right? All right, and then I can ask my fighter to open their hand up. And after they open the hand, I go over the outside, under the palm by the pinky, under the thumb, and over the top. And if you want to immediately start wrapping the opponent, your partner's thumb, your fighter's thumb, it's optional in an MMA fight. A lot of people that prefer themselves or consider themselves strikers, they want to definitely wrap this thumb. A lot of people that are more grappling based, they need their thumb free for mobility. All right, so under the palm, I go across the ball of the wrist, around the wrist, and if I want the thumb, I'm going to attack the thumb now. I'm going to wrap around the knuckle of the thumb and under it, across the top, and I attack the pinky from here. Under the pinky, over the knuckles, and around the wrist. At this point, I pause and I tell my partner or my boxer to hold the gauze, because now I'm going to apply the pad. I tell them to keep their palms extended or their fingertips extended, and I place the padding over the top of the knuckles. This pad protects their knuckles if they get really brittle and old, right? I cheat, and it's not like illegally cheating, I'm just saying. From this portion, boom, I catch the outside portion of the pad just so it won't be able to move after I finish, under the palm and across the top of the initial portions of the pad. From here, this excess, because that would be illegal because it'd be over the knuckles, I fold it back, and then I just wrap the wadding that I've created with the rest of the gauze. And so now it's a nice soft pad, so they can just have a little extra protection on their knuckles. Right? And what happens is I wrap it enough, and I make sure I over wrap it to this extent so I can tuck it under when the time comes. So here's that over wrap. You see there's leftover here, and I do this twice so I can catch the portion from before, so I can have just enough overlap to tuck it under the gauze and wadding. From here, I attack the wrist, and I just continue to make sure that she has a firm, strong wrist, because I don't want her to hurt herself. And I continue to attack the thumb, under the thumb, and around the wrist. Now, if you notice, that little open portion is now starting to get covered, because I want to protect all of the small bones in her hand so she won't break it in the event that she strikes too hard or anything happens, the inevitable. Right? Around the wrist, over the top of the knuckles, around the thumb. And I'll keep going, but for the sake of the video, I'll stop it right here. Imagine that I was at the very last portion of the gauze. So I wrap it around, and then just imagine, focus, right? I just finished that gauze. That gauze doesn't exist anymore. And so what I'll do is I'll take a piece of tape, just for myself, to keep everything tight. I just tape it around the wrist right here, just so I can trap that piece of gauze that ran out. Now from here, I begin to tuck that excess we were talking about earlier under, and I just fold it, just like that. And I'm making a puncher's bar. That's what's happening when I tuck the excess. If I ask my boxer to flip their hand over, this becomes that puncher's bar. They can actually grab it, and it's going to make their fist stronger. take a piece of tape, and I tape that puncher's bar. Good. Now that I've taped that puncher's bar, I take some extra strips of tape because this is what I'm going to put between the wedges of her knuckles, right? So on that puncher's bar that I created, I take the tape and I overlap a long strip of tape because this is also going to help keep that pad that we've created secure. And I always happen to twist up the tape. You don't have to. It's just something I do. All right? And then in the center knuckle, between the wedges of the center fingers, rather, the pointer and the middle. Might be the ring in the middle, rather, I'm sorry. And then lastly, between the middle finger and the pointer. And I'm just folding the excess of the tape under the puncher's bar, and I'm twisting the rope. Now from here, I grab all three of these bad boys to make sure they're tight, and I ask my boxer to ball up their fist. After I tell them to ball up their fist, I tell them to turn their wrist over, right? And then I tell them, put their arm down, push their wrist down like so. So she puts her, she put her wrist down like so, and then I pull so it can be snug and taut, each one of these bad boys that I've created. One, two, three. And then I combine all three straps. Sometimes I make a knot, sometimes I don't, it doesn't matter. And I ask my boxer to hold on to the three lengths of tape. And then I take the roll of tape and I secure the strap. Okay? Now that it's secure, this is a portion I learned from Freddie Roach. No bull. I found a video of Freddie Roach a long time ago. And he always stresses the importance of ensuring that you protect the small bones in the hands because those are the ones that break first. So what I do is I start creating like this cross hatch of tape across lengthwise or widthwise. I even cover the thumb, no big deal. I cover the thumb all the way down to my fighter's wrist. And then I can go lengthwise. And remember, you can't have tape over the actual knuckle, even though the knuckle is covered with padding. And then I go lengthwise. And what that's doing is building like a wall of protection for the small bones in the hand. All right? These portions, this is where the boxers break their hands. It's happened to me a couple of times. And I go across the width and length of the hand. I'm going across one more time because I want to make sure that my boxer is safe. And then I ask my boxer to open their hand up, and now that they open their hand, I'm going to secure and anchor the thumb to make sure all the pieces of tape are snug and secure, and this is like the extra portion of defense to make sure the fighter rather, doesn't break the thumb or the small bones. I go around, I follow the length of the wrist that is connected to the thumb portion. I go under the thumb and over top the knuckle of the thumb. Then I come across the top portion of her hand, under the palm, and I make sure that I connect the tape at the puncher's bar that I've created, okay? I don't cover her actual knuckles. I bring it around, and I start wrapping her wrist. So that's like 3 layers of protection over my fighter's small bones. Now you can do that as many times as you feel fit. But from here I'm finished. And then what I'll do is that excess portion of the puncher's bar, sometimes, well, most of the time, I'll take my scissors and I'll split this little piece and then I'll tuck it under. So now, and this excess, I usually keep it, but just so I can be pretty, I cut this little piece off. And now you see, that's the official puncher's bar. If she balls up her fist, it's like I tell her to grab it, you know, and that's going to make her hand nice and strong. She has all this defense right here. It's nice and strong. Her knuckles are completely exposed, and it shouldn't hurt her knuckles when I ask her. I usually tell the guys I grab their fist, and I tell them to punch the palm of my hand. And I say, how does that feel? And then I also tell the guys, grab my wrist, especially if they're MMA fighting. I say, grab my wrist, and I pull on them, right? Because that'll show me that they have enough dexterity, strength, and mobility in their hand to make sure that they can do the grappling necessary in an MMA fight. And that is one way, not the perfect way or the absolute way. There are no absolutes, right? This is a way to wrap a hand. It looks pretty nice.